Anthony Joshua returned to action this past Saturday after suffering two consecutive losses to Alexander Usyk. He was in desperate need of another victory. He was in desperate need of getting himself back into the win column. So this past Saturday afternoon, on April 1st, 2023, he took on Jermaine Franklin, whose biggest fight on his resume was a loss to Dillian White. So uh, Joshua took him on in order to ensure a win and put himself back on the right side of the win-loss column. Um, Anthony Joshua was a huge guy, very athletic, looked like he'd been chiseled out of stone, like a statue. You know, massive dude, about 6'7", I'd say. And like I said, looks like he's been chiseled and carved. Looks like a action hero. Okay, and Jermaine Franklin, he's a tough guy. He's a boxer, only about 6'2", big, kind of chubby, not in the best shape. So you had a very contrasting physical picture being put in front of you for this fight. So essentially, what we're saying is this fight was supposed to be a tune-up fight for Anthony Joshua, and of course, he got the result he wanted. He got the win. He got a decision win, and even Tony Bellew um, was saying before the fight, before the ring walk, that these are the heavyweights, and people come to see the heavyweights knock each other around, knock each other out. And Joshua used to be somewhat of a knockout artist, okay? But ever since his loss in his first fight to Andy Ruiz, where he was beaten by a 6'2" chubby fighter who just is good at boxing and has strong power, he did beat Ruiz in the rematch, but he did it with a very cautious style. Since his loss to Ruiz, he has become very cautious. He's almost afraid to engage. He's now using that hold and hit style. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Joshua because in his two fights with Usyk, he didn't look horrible because Usyk's an awkward fighter. He's a southpaw. He's a smaller guy for a heavyweight, so he sort of moves like a middleweight slash cruiserweight, and he's got tremendous boxing skills. And like I said, he's a southpaw, so he makes it difficult for a guy, any fighter, especially a guy like Joshua, who's tall and rangy and doesn't like when people can get in and out of his space and his range. Usyk's a very frustrating fighter, which is probably why Tyson Fury hasn't signed the contract yet. But that's a whole different topic. So, anyways, Joshua went in there and he looked tentative, so to speak, against Franklin. I mean, he was kind of like prodding with his jab, and I mean, he had moments where he looked good, but the point is that he was doing a lot of hugging. Franklin obviously needed to get inside, being the shorter fighter, and anytime he made his way inside, Joshua was clinching. Now, it's a smart tactic, but holding is an illegal tactic because you're not allowing someone like Franklin, who's shorter, to be able to work to their fight strategy. He's got to get inside. He's got to engage in infighting. He's kind of got to like muck it up on the inside, be able to dig to the body and work and get out. Joshua was just draping his big ass all over him, and the ref, although he was saying no holding, no holding, he never warned Joshua. As a matter of fact, he was always looking over at Franklin like it was Franklin initiating. Franklin initiated some clinches as well, but if I had to give it a percentage, I would say it was like 73% Joshua, 27% Franklin initiating the clinches and the holds. So Joshua doesn't like to fight on the inside. He's vulnerable. He's vulnerable. He is vulnerable to getting hit with the right hand. Franklin caught him several times with the right hand, and fortunately for Joshua, he doesn't have as much on it as, say, Andy Ruiz or some of the other bigger punchers that he might have to fight in the division. So AJ got the win. He got away with a lot of holding. Ref never warned him. It seemed like, I mean, I was getting frustrated with the ref. He seemed like it was favoritism towards letting Anthony Joshua fight the fight. He needed to fight to be able to last the whole 12 rounds. He was supposed to knock Franklin out. He was supposed to make a statement, but he didn't. He got the victory. Not every fight's going to be easy, even though it's supposedly going to be easy. You know, the fighter on paper isn't the man or the woman that you face in the ring. That's a different person than what their record represents. They've got heart, they've got determination, they've been training. So you got to respect everybody, all your opponents. You can't underestimate them. I'm not saying AJ underestimated Franklin, but he didn't get the results he wanted. You're not going to be able to lie about that. I'm sure he wanted a stoppage, a TKO, not a not a hard fought decision victory, where he got rocked a couple times by a right hand. And the funny part is for all the holding he was doing, he actually looked better when he was standing back at range and letting his hands go. When there was throwing combinations, jabs, crosses, hooks to the body. You know, he obviously he was more vulnerable to counterattacks, but he was actually more successful, more impressive, and more like his old self when he was sitting back letting his hands go. At one point in between rounds, even his trainer told him it was too much holding, that he was doing too much holding. So that goes to show you. Another thing I didn't like is that he was holding, a la Lennox Lewis, holding Franklin's head with his left and coming up uppercuts in the clinch. I mean, sure, uppercuts in the clinch are fine, but you're not supposed to. I mean, I'm not mad at holding someone's head and hitting them, but it's illegal in boxing, you know? And the referee never said anything about that, which led a lot of people to believe that there was some sort of bias going on there, which, let's face it, if a referee is not officiating the fight fairly, it can give a certain fighter an advantage over another fighter. For example, you got a fighter that likes infighting, likes fighting in a phone booth, head to head, chest to chest. Can't do it when the ref's constantly breaking you up or allowing one guy to initiate clinches and not warning him about it. But all that to say, AJ's back. He promises to fight again in 12 weeks by the summer. Don't know who the opponent's going to be, but somehow, even by getting this win, he sort of took an L because he doesn't look like he's improved on anything. He doesn't look like he's taken accountability. He had a bad show after the last Usyk fight with that weird rant afterwards, which he addressed after this fight. But that was only immediately after the bell rung, that he pushed Franklin's head as he was walking away and sort of like followed him and like hugged him in a mocking sort of like, this is what happened during the fight kind of way, all the way across with this weird behavior. It's almost like someone told him in between the last bell ringing and his interview, like, yo, you're making yourself look bad out here. You need to clean this up on the mic a little bit, and he did. But he just seems shook. He doesn't seem like he's really there. He's obviously talented, but he's more of an athlete, it seems like, than he is a fighter. Now, he's had good fights. I mean, his fight with Klitschko, that took a lot. You know, he it wasn't easy. It's not like Klitschko just rolled over for him. So he's been in there. Like I said, even him against Usyk, he had to show determination and grit even just to get through both those fights. But he looks like he's on the downward slide. I don't see that he has what it takes to regain the title. Obviously, he's 0 for 2 against Usyk. I don't think he could handle Fury at all. Fury's just too big, so he wouldn't be able to do that clinching and holding style against him. And also, Fury's a superior boxer than he is. He's just way more fluid, just all around better, takes a better punch, everything. And Wilder as well, even though Wilder is, been through those wars with Fury, he's got some a lot of wear and tear. He's put on a lot of action fights. He's got that eraser. I don't think AJ could handle Wilder either. If only he could somehow stay away from the right hand, which he seems to get hit with by everybody. So, and again, Wilder's the same height as him, so he wouldn't be able to easily just grab him up. Wilder's been in the ring. He has with Fury 3 times, a bigger man, heavy man, so he knows what it's like to handle that weight in the clinch and in the close quarters combat. So AJ seems like he's probably a cool dude in real life. I don't know. It's hard to say when these people are so rich and famous, and we only see them, when they're on top, celebrating, showing us their best, or when they're like really down on their luck, acting real shitty in the ring after a bad performance. So we can't really judge them on who they are personally, but as a fighter, he's on the decline, and I don't see him regaining the heavyweight championship at all. He might have a few more fights in him, might get a few more good paydays, and maybe get some respect back on his name in the boxing world, but for all intents and purposes, Anthony Joshua is washed up. I'm no expert. I just call it how I see it. And until next time, you and